You know that strange season of life where everything you thought you understood about yourself suddenly stops making sense? Yeah. That quiet, disorienting moment when you stare at your own life like it belongs to someone else. Maybe that's where you are right now. You wake up in the morning and the old motivations no longer move you. The goals you once chased feel thin, hollow, like cardboard versions of something that used to be real. And you keep asking yourself, what am I doing? Where am I going? Why does none of this feel like me anymore? But instead of answers, all you get is silence, a fog, a sense that the map you've been using your whole life just vanished. And of course, your mind panics, because everything around you, family, culture, society, has trained you to believe that not knowing means you messed up somewhere. You're supposed to have a plan, a direction, a 5-year vision, a reason, a label, a story that makes sense. You're supposed to be able to say confidently, this is who I am, this is what I want, this is where I'm headed. But you can't say that right now, no, can you? And maybe that scares you a little, or a lot. So here you are, feeling like your inner world is unraveling while everyone else seems to be moving forward with crystal clear certainty. But let me ask you something. And breathe for a second before you answer. What if your confusion isn't a mistake? What if it's a message, a signal, a doorway? Because here's the truth you were never taught. Confusion isn't the breakdown. Confusion is the opening. You were told that clarity equals strength and confusion equals weakness. But in quantum language, the language reality actually listens to, it's the opposite. When you're certain, when you've already decided what you want, how you'll get it, who you're supposed to be, and what your life must look like, you close the field. You collapse all the possibilities into one narrow path that may or may not match who you're actually becoming. But when you're confused, when you genuinely don't know who you are or what you want or where you belong, you're not broken. You're not behind. You're not failing. You're open, wide open. Your life is no longer squeezed into the small container of who you used to be. You've slipped out of the old story but haven't entered the new one yet. And that in between, that unsettled, ungrounded, uncomfortable space you keep trying to escape, that space is holy. It's the birthplace of every reinvention you've ever had. If you're feeling lost right now, it's because you've outgrown the version of yourself you've been pretending to be. If you don't know what you want anymore, it's because you're no longer satisfied with the limited menu your old identity offered you. If the life you built no longer fits, it's because life isn't trying to punish you. It's trying to expand you. You didn't click on this video by accident. People don't look for content about confusion when they're stable, sure, and grounded. You're here because something in you knows you're standing at a threshold. Something in you can feel the shape of a new life pressing against the walls of the old one. Something in you is whispering, this isn't the end, this is the beginning. But first, you have to let go of pretending you know where you're going. So let's start with this one simple truth. Let it land. Let it soften something inside you. You don't need to know right now. You only need to stop pretending. Clarity isn't required in this moment. Certainty isn't required in this moment. Direction isn't required in this moment. Only honesty, only presence, only willingness to stand exactly where you are in the middle of the fog and the unraveling and the I have no idea what I'm doing and not run from it. Because the moment you stop running is the moment the doorway begins to form. So if you're confused, good, you're supposed to be. It means the old timeline has released you. It means the old identity can no longer hold you. It means the quantum field is starting to rearrange itself around possibilities you can't see yet. You're not late. You're not lost. You're not broken. You're simply between stories. And the space between stories is where every breakthrough, every reinvention, every awakening actually begins. Take a breath. Feel your confusion. And for the first time, don't fight it. Just notice it. Because part 2 will show you why your confusion feels so intense, and why that intensity is proof you're right where you're meant to be. There's a reason confusion feels so heavy, so sharp, so almost dangerous in your body. And it's not because you're weak. It's not because you're behind. It's not because you've lost your way. It's because your nervous system, your ego, your culture, and your entire psychological conditioning were built for a world that no longer matches who you're becoming. Let's slow down here. Because once you understand this, your whole relationship with confusion changes. 1. Your survival brain was never designed for uncertainty. Your mind didn't evolve for self-discovery. It evolved for survival. Thousands of years ago, not knowing wasn't a philosophical problem. It was a threat. If you didn't know what that sound in the bushes was, you could die. If you didn't know where the safe path was, you could die. If you didn't know which berries were poisonous, you could die. So your brain developed a simple rule. Uncertainty equals danger. Certainty equals safety. Fast forward to today. The danger in your life isn't a predator in the bushes. It's not knowing your life direction, not knowing what decision to make, not knowing who you're becoming, not knowing what the next version of you looks like. But your brain reacts like you're about to get eaten. That anxiety you feel, that tightness in your chest, that pressure to figure it out immediately, that's not your truth speaking. That's your survival brain firing off alarms that are wildly outdated. You're not in danger. You're evolving. 2. The culture you grew up in worships certainty. Nobody teaches you how to not know. Instead, you're rewarded when you have answers, when you're decisive, when you're confident, when you look like you know exactly what you're doing, and you're punished. Socially, emotionally, academically, when you're unsure. Think about school. You got points for the right answer. You got embarrassed for the wrong one. And I don't know was the fastest way to be told you weren't trying hard enough. So what did you learn? Confusion equals incompetence. Uncertainty equals failure. Not knowing equals shame. No wonder you panic when life puts you in a moment where the old answers stop working. No wonder you feel like you're supposed to be somewhere else by now. But here's the twist society never told you. Certainty is often just fear in costume. Confusion is often your truth arriving. 3. Your ego can't survive without a story. And confusion erases the story. Your ego is a storyteller. It builds your identity from the sentences you repeat about yourself. I'm this kind of person. I want these things. I'm going in this direction. I know who I am. Your ego doesn't care if the story is real. It only cares that the story is stable. But when life changes, when you outgrow your past, when your soul wants something new, your ego's story starts to crack. And suddenly, goals stop feeling aligned. Relationships feel different. Dreams feel outdated. The path you built no longer fits your feet. Your ego freaks out because it thinks the story is dying. But here's the truth. The story isn't dying, it's dissolving so a truer one can emerge. Ego calls this falling apart. Consciousness calls it opening. 4. You were conditioned to think answers equal intelligence. Let's be honest. You've probably been praised your whole life for being the person who had the plan, figured things out, stayed on track, always knew what to do. But what if that wasn't wisdom? What if that was compliance? Because real intelligence isn't the ability to recite what you already know. Real intelligence is the ability to stand inside the unknown without collapsing into fear. Nobody taught you how to do that. Nobody taught you how to be present with the chaos of growth. Nobody taught you how to let go of old answers without rushing toward new ones. And so when confusion arrives, you interpret it as regression. But confusion is not regression. Confusion is the dismantling of outdated intelligence so a higher intelligence can come online. 5. And here's the deepest reason of all. Confusion threatens the version of you that other people are comfortable with. When you change, your roles change, your relationships shift, your choices evolve, your energy reorganizes. Most people prefer the predictable version of you because that version fits their expectations. I'm not sure anymore. I don't know if this is right for me. I'm rethinking everything. It scares them. Not because you're lost, but because your evolution forces them to look at their own stagnation. So they project their fear onto you. Maybe you're confused because something's wrong. Maybe you just need to be more decisive. Maybe you're overthinking. No. You're not overthinking. You're outgrowing. And your confusion is the evidence. So let's bring all of this together. The reason confusion feels unbearable is not because confusion is inherently painful. It's because your survival brain equates uncertainty with danger. Your culture equates uncertainty with failure. Your ego equates uncertainty with identity death. Your community equates uncertainty with instability. And yet, uncertainty is the natural state of anything that's evolving, just like a seed dissolves before it becomes a tree, just like night must fall before dawn arrives, just like silence appears before a new sound is born. You are not breaking. You are transitioning. You're not going backwards. You're being unmade so you can be remade. And the moment you stop blaming yourself for not knowing, the moment the quantum doorway cracks open. Part 3 will show you exactly what that doorway looks like from the inside. There's a moment in every real transformation that nobody talks about. The moment when you're no longer who you used to be, but not yet who you're becoming. A moment that feels like standing in a hallway after the door behind you has closed and the door in front of you hasn't opened yet. That hallway has a name, confusion, but it's not the kind of confusion that comes from a lack of intelligence or a lack of discipline. It's the confusion that arrives when your entire way of understanding yourself starts to melt. Let me paint you a picture. You're the caterpillar, but you're also the cocoon. Everyone romanticizes the butterfly, beautiful, free, transformed. But almost no one talks about the part in between, the part where the caterpillar crawls into the cocoon and dissolves into a formless, identityless soup. If the caterpillar could speak during that process, it wouldn't say, "I feel so empowered," or "I'm finally becoming who I'm meant to be." It would say, I don't understand what's happening. I don't feel like myself. I don't know who I am anymore. I don't know what I'm turning into. I feel like everything familiar is disappearing. Sound familiar? Because that's exactly what happens to you when consciousness begins to outgrow identity. You're not losing yourself, you're dissolving an outdated version of yourself. And dissolving never feels efficient, it never feels graceful. It never feels like progress, it feels like confusion. Your identity isn't breaking, it's liquefying. Think about the version of you you've been living as for years, the things you believed, the goals you chased, the personality traits you claimed, the roles you played for other people, the dreams you once swore were yours. All of these form a structure, a psychological exoskeleton. But evolution can't happen inside a rigid structure. At some point, your consciousness bumps against the walls of who you used to be and realizes there's no room left to grow. So the walls have to soften, then crack, then melt. You feel this as loss of motivation, loss of direction, loss of former passions, loss of clarity, loss of identity, loss of certainty. But notice something important. All the losses you're feeling are losses of old forms, not losses of your essence. Your essence doesn't disappear, it expands. But expansion can only happen after dissolution. Confusion is the space consciousness creates to build something new. When the old identity drops away, your mind instinctively tries to fill the space immediately. What's next? What should I do? What's the plan? How do I make sense of this? But confusion is not a problem to solve, it's a space to inhabit. Because in quantum terms, when nothing is defined, everything is possible. You become a field of pure potential, unlabeled, unfixed, unrestricted, uncollapsed. This is the moment the quantum field loves most. You are no longer telling life who you're supposed to be. You're listening for who you're becoming. That tension you're feeling, that weird limbo, it's not purposeless, it's gestation. When life pulls away everything familiar, it's never to punish you. It's to expose you to the truth underneath the identity you've been wearing. Think about it. Would you ever question your path if the old path still felt right? Would you ever expand if the old version of you felt comfortable? Would you ever open if nothing ever fell apart? Human beings don't evolve when things make sense. We evolve when what used to make sense doesn't anymore. Your confusion isn't random, it's perfectly timed. Something inside you whispered, "This is no longer enough. This is no longer you. There's something bigger you're meant to step into." And the universe responded by dissolving the container you've outgrown. You asked for expansion. You just didn't know that expansion begins as unraveling. Here's the part people misunderstand. You're not meant to understand this phase. Understanding belongs to the mind. Transformation belongs to consciousness. The mind wants maps. Consciousness wants freedom. The mind wants clarity. Consciousness wants possibility. The mind wants to preserve identity. Consciousness wants to evolve identity. So the mind panics. What's happening to me? While consciousness whispers exactly what needs to happen. This is why you feel two voices inside you. One terrified, one strangely calm. One says, "I'm lost." The other says, "You're becoming." One clings to the old. The other opens to the new. Which one you listen to determines whether confusion becomes suffering or initiation. Your confusion is not the darkness before the light. It is the light, just in a form you've never seen before. Let that land. Really let it in. This moment where nothing makes sense, where you can't grab onto who you were and can't see who you're becoming. This moment is sacred, and whether you realize it or not, you're already inside the cocoon. Your edges are softening, your shape is changing. Your old motivations are dissolving, your energy is reorganizing. Your future self is starting to whisper. This is not breakdown, this is metamorphosis. This is what it feels like to outgrow an entire identity system. This is what it feels like to shift timelines. This is what it feels like to become someone you've never been before. So if you feel like you're floating between worlds, good. That's exactly where transformation happens. In part 4, you're going to learn how to recognize the specific signs that your confusion isn't a collapse, but an upgrade already in motion. By now you've probably started wondering, okay, if my old identity is dissolving, how do I know this confusion is part of my evolution and not just me falling apart? It's a fair question, a human question, a scared but honest question. So let's make something crystal clear. Confusion isn't automatically a sign of growth. Sometimes it's just the mind looping. But there is a particular kind of confusion that only appears when consciousness is upgrading you to a higher timeline. And when that kind of confusion arrives, it carries very specific signatures. Let's walk through them slowly. Notice which ones land. Notice which ones feel uncomfortably accurate. Notice which ones feel like they're describing you more precisely than you can describe yourself. Ready? Sign 1. Your old certainty didn't fade. It collapsed. This is the first and strongest indicator. You didn't gradually lose interest. You didn't slowly drift away. You didn't gently outgrow a phase. It was sudden. One day things made sense. The next day they didn't. A plan you used to love now feels numb. A relationship you depended on suddenly feels misaligned. A dream you swore was yours now feels like a costume you're tired of wearing. This isn't indecision, this is consciousness saying, this direction was too small for who you're becoming. When certainty collapses all at once, it isn't failure. It's a signal, a quantum one. Sign 2. The more you try to think your way out, the worse it gets. This is when you know your confusion isn't mental, it's evolutionary. You try journaling, you try planning, you try meditating, you try forcing clarity, you talk to friends, you analyze every possible angle, but instead of clarity, you get a deeper fog. It's like the universe saying, you can't solve this with the version of the mind you're outgrowing. When confusion increases the harder you think, it means the next step is not accessible through logic. It will come through expansion, not through effort. Sign 3. Synchronicities spike when your clarity drops. If confusion were truly a sign you're lost, life would withdraw support. But that's not what happens to you. You'll notice small things. A message shows up at the exact moment you needed it. A random conversation hits too close to home. A stranger says something that feels like it was meant for you. A video appears that somehow describes your inner world better than your own thoughts. These aren't coincidences. This is the quantum field whispering. I know you don't see the path yet, but I'm guiding you anyway. Synchronicities increase because you're becoming more receptive, and because you're being rerouted. Sign 4. Creative impulses emerge from nowhere. This one surprises people. In the middle of your confusion, you suddenly feel pulled to write, draw, speak, change your room, start a journal, create something you've never created before. These creative impulses don't come from your mind. They come from the part of you that already knows the next version of your life. Creativity is the intelligence of your future self trying to communicate with your present self. When new ideas appear out of the blue, it's a sign the quantum door is cracking open. Sign 5. You feel lost in your mind, but strangely guided in your body. This is one of the rarest but most accurate signs. Your thoughts say, I don't know what I'm doing, I'm off track, I'm messing up. But your deeper awareness, the quiet place beneath fears, feels like, I'm being moved, I'm being held, something is unfolding. It's a paradox, mentally unsure, energetically guided. That paradox only appears when ego is losing control and consciousness is taking over navigation. Lost and guided at the same time is a signature of quantum transition. Sign 6. Old attachments are dissolving effortlessly. Pay attention here. You're not forcing anything. You're not angry. You're not dramatic. You're not burning bridges. You're just releasing. Naturally, quietly, gently, things that once felt essential now feel optional. People who once defined your identity no longer feel like your mirror. Ambitions that once excited you now feel too small for your energy. This isn't apathy. It's clearing. Life is making space in you for something you don't have language for yet. Your confusion isn't emptying you, it's preparing you. Sign 7. These words don't feel like information. They feel like recognition. Maybe you're feeling a rush in your chest, or chills, or a quiet, oh my God, or tears you can't explain, or the sense that someone finally put words to what your soul has known for months. That's not emotional reaction, that's resonance. This isn't the first time you've encountered this truth, it's the first time you've remembered it. Your recognition is the clearest sign of all. You're not lost. You're crossing a threshold, and your confusion is the proof. Let this sink in for a moment. Not every confusion is meaningful, but yours is. Not every uncertainty is a transformation. But this one is. You found this message in the exact season when your old identity is collapsing and your new one is trying to form. That's not coincidence, that's timing, that's alignment. That's the quantum field nudging you. Don't run from this, you're not breaking, you're becoming. And in part 5, you'll learn how to shift from ego confusion, the kind that burns you out, to conscious confusion, the kind that opens timelines. There's a turning point in every awakening, a moment when you realize the confusion itself isn't the problem. The way you relate to it is. Because there are two kinds of confusion, and they feel completely different in your body even if the circumstances look the same. One drains you, one expands you, one collapses your energy, one awakens your energy. One keeps you stuck, one opens timelines. Let's name them clearly so you can feel the difference: ego confusion and conscious confusion. They are not the same, not even close. Ego confusion's the kind that makes you panic, spiral, overthink, and shut down. Ego confusion sounds like this. I have to figure this out. I need answers right now. I can't move forward until I'm certain. What if I choose wrong? What if I mess this up? What if everything falls apart? And once ego starts talking, the whole system tightens. Your shoulders, your breathing, your jaw, your energy field, everything contracts. Ego confusion is frantic, chaotic, mental, loud. You try to think harder, plan more, gather more information, ask for advice. analyze every possible outcome. But the more you analyze, the deeper the fog becomes. Why? Because ego confusion is a fight against the state you're meant to be in. You're resisting the unknown. You're trying to collapse the quantum field back into something familiar, even if that familiar thing is too small for you now. Ego confusion is the mind saying, I refuse to evolve unless I can control the evolution. And that never works. Ever. Conscious confusion, the kind that opens the quantum door. Conscious confusion has a completely different tone. It sounds like, I don't know, and maybe I don't need to. I can let this be unclear for a while. I can take the next step without knowing the whole path. I trust something larger than my mind is unfolding here. I'm willing to be guided instead of forcing direction. Feel the difference. It's calmer, quieter, more spacious. There's softness in conscious confusion, a subtle peace, not because you have answers, but because you've stopped demanding them. Conscious confusion says, I'm willing to not know because not knowing is part of the becoming. This confusion doesn't collapse you. It expands you. It opens your field. It relaxes your energy. It's the confusion that invites new timelines instead of recycling old ones. And the shift into conscious confusion begins with a single moment, a moment of surrender. Not dramatic surrender, not cinematic surrender. Just a quiet, honest internal exhale. I don't know. And I don't have to fight that anymore. Let's walk through the 4 practices that turn panic into power, that turn ego confusion into conscious confusion. Practice 1. Give yourself permission to not know. Say this slowly, out loud if you can. I don't know, and that's okay. Most people have never said those words without shame attached to them. But watch what happens when you let the sentence resonate in your body. Notice the drop, the loosening, the release. Not knowing isn't weakness, it's honesty. And honesty is a frequency the quantum field responds to instantly, because the moment you stop pretending you know, your energy becomes transparent, and the field can finally work with you. Practice 2. Stop asking ego questions. Start asking quantum questions. Ego always asks, what should I do? What's the right choice? How do I fix this? What if I choose wrong? These questions pull you deeper into fear. Quantum questions open the field. What wants to happen here? What possibility am I not seeing yet? What is emerging through this uncertainty? What direction feels alive right now? Quantum questions never demand answers. They create space for answers to reveal themselves without pressure. Practice 3. Stop analyzing options. Start tracking energy. The mind makes lists, pros and cons, scenarios, predictions. But the quantum field doesn't speak in logic, it speaks in sensation. When you tune into a possibility, your body knows before your mind does. Some options tighten you, some soften you, some feel dead, some feel alive. A yes in quantum language doesn't always feel safe, but it always feels awake. A no doesn't always feel scary, but it always feels closed. This is why your mind is confused, but your deeper awareness isn't. Your body is already sensing the timeline that's trying to open. Practice 4. Act without clarity, move without the map. This is the part ego hates the most. Ego says, I can't move until I know everything. But quantum says, you'll never know everything until you move. Clarity doesn't come before action. Clarity emerges because of action. Your future self doesn't reveal the whole plan. It reveals the next step, just the next one. Do the thing that feels alive. Send the message. Try the new direction. Take the small step. Say the honest truth. Start the project. Close the chapter. Don't wait for certainty. Certainty is what arrives after you walk through the door, not before. Let this sink in. You're not being asked to know. You're being asked to allow. You're not being asked to figure out your life. You're being asked to trust the phase you're in. You're not being asked to collapse the timeline. You're being asked to stay open so the right timeline can choose you. Ego confusion says, I'm lost. Conscious confusion says, I'm becoming. One resists life, the other partners with it. And in part 6, you'll learn how to stay open while still functioning in the real world. How to live, work, choose, and move without collapsing back into outdated certainty. It's the part most people never master. But once you do, life reorganizes around you in ways no plan could ever replicate. Here's a question that always shows up right after someone begins awakening. Okay, I get that confusion is part of my evolution. But how do I actually live like this? In real life? With responsibilities, bills, people depending on me, a job, a partner, a future? It's one thing to understand the quantum principles. It's another to wake up on a Tuesday morning with zero clarity and still function like a human being. So let's talk about it, because quantum living isn't about escaping life. It's about engaging with life from a completely different frequency. And once you understand this shift, your entire reality rearranges itself around you. Let's break it down. 1. Stop chasing big clarity. Start practicing essential clarity. Most of your panic comes from believing you need to know the entire story of your life. You don't. You only need to know what wants to happen right now, not who you'll be in 5 years, not what your final purpose is, not how every piece fits. Just the next essential truth. Essential clarity sounds like, I'm tired, I need rest. I'm drawn to this, I want to explore. This conversation feels wrong, I'm pulling back. I feel open, I'll say yes. I feel tight, I'll say no. You don't need a map to take the step that is directly in front of you. In fact, the map can't even appear until you take that step. Quantum reality doesn't hand you the blueprint. It hands you the moment. And the moment is always enough. 2. You don't have to explain your uncertainty to anyone. People get uncomfortable when you're comfortable not knowing. They ask questions. So what's next for you? What are you planning? What direction are you going? What's the goal now? They ask because they need certainty, not because you owe it. You are not required to give people a clean narrative about a life that is still dissolving and reforming. Use language that honors your truth without forcing clarity you don't have. I'm exploring right now. I'm in transition. I'm letting things unfold. I'm listening for what's next. I'm not rushing clarity. You're not hiding. You're respecting the phase you're in. Let the world adjust to your evolution, not the other way around. 3. Create space for confusion instead of numbing it. Ego tries to escape confusion through distraction. Scrolling, binge-watching, overworking, overthinking, overplanning, over-explaining, overdoing anything just to avoid sitting with the unknown, but quantum doorways only open in stillness, not constant motion, not constant stimulation, not constant noise. Try this. Give yourself even 10 minutes a day to simply be confused without trying to fix it. Sit with the fog. Sit with the shapelessness. Sit with the I don't know. Let it soften you instead of hardening you. This is where quantum intelligence speaks the loudest, not in certainty, but in the quiet between thoughts. 4. Learn the difference between intuition and ego's anxiety. When you're confused, the ego gets loud. It sends thoughts that feel important. You should do this. You need to decide now. This means you're failing. This is dangerous. You're running out of time. But intuition doesn't sound like urgency. It never pressures you, it never threatens, it never panics. Intuition feels like a gentle nudge, a quiet knowing, a subtle expansion, a sense of rightness you can't explain logically. The easiest way to tell the difference: ego tightens, intuition opens. When you feel pressured, scared, or rushed, that's not intuition. When something feels peaceful, alive, curious, even if it's uncertain, that's guidance. Trust the one that expands you, not the one that shrinks you. 5. Track what's emerging, not what's missing. When you're confused, your mind focuses on what you've lost. I don't feel motivated anymore. I'm not interested in my old goals. I don't feel connected to my old life. I don't know what I want. But look closer. Something is happening beneath the surface. Are you writing more? Are you pulled toward new environments, new people, new ideas, new sensations, new curiosities? These subtle movements are not random. They are the first threads of your new identity forming. Don't measure your life by what has fallen away. Measure it by what is quietly appearing. Those small impulses are instructions from the version of you that already exists on the next timeline. 6. You can function perfectly well without long-term certainty. Here's the truth nobody ever told you. You don't need to know your life path to live your life. You don't need the 10-year plan to take a meaningful step today. You don't need identity-level clarity to be present with the moment in front of you. You can show up, respond, choose, rest, adjust, listen, and participate, all without knowing exactly where it's leading. That's not irresponsibility, that's quantum maturity. Ego needs control, consciousness only needs awareness. 7. Confusion isn't stopping you from living, it's creating a different way of living. A way where you don't move because you should, but because something in you rises. A way where you don't plan your life based on who you used to be, but based on what actually feels alive now. A way where you don't chase certainty to calm your fear, but let uncertainty expand your awareness. You're not meant to freeze, you're meant to live inside the not knowing. And when you do, life starts responding in ways that are impossibly aligned, mysteriously timed, and unmistakably meant for you. Because the quantum field isn't waiting for you to be certain, it's waiting for you to be available. In Part 7, you'll step into the final activation. The moment where confusion becomes commitment, where you shift from trying to understand to choosing to walk through the doorway. Take a breath, not a small one, a real one, the kind of breath you take when you know something is about to shift inside you. Because this final part isn't information, it's initiation. This is where confusion stops feeling like a problem and starts feeling like power. Where uncertainty stops feeling like danger and starts feeling like possibility. Where the doorway you've been standing in front of finally begins to open. Let's walk in slowly. Right now, think of the one thing in your life that feels the most unclear. That decision you can't make. That direction you can't see, that identity you can't fully step into or step out of, that question you keep asking without getting answers. Just bring it to the surface. Let it sit in your awareness without trying to solve it. Feel the edges of it. Feel the texture. Feel the fog around it. And now, instead of tightening, instead of bracing, instead of forcing clarity, just whisper inside yourself, I don't know. And I'm allowed to not know. Notice what happens. Notice the drop. Notice the softening. Notice how your breath changes when you stop fighting the truth of this moment. Because this, right here, right now, is the quantum doorway. Not knowing isn't the barrier. Not knowing is the opening. There is a version of you already living on the other side of this confusion. A version with clarity, a version with alignment, a version with direction that feels alive, a version that isn't forcing certainty, but flowing with it, a version whose identity hasn't collapsed, but transformed. That version isn't separate from you. You're not trying to become them, you're remembering them. But the only path from where you stand to where they are is through the not knowing. You can't skip this part. You can't bypass it. You can't rush it. Confusion is not the delay. Confusion is the passageway. And the moment you stop resisting it, you start moving. So here's the real choice. Not what to do next, not who to be, not where to go, but how you will relate to the space you're in right now. You get to choose between the old way, forcing clarity, grabbing answers, collapsing possibilities, returning to a version of yourself that no longer fits, or the quantum way. Staying open, staying soft, staying willing to not know long enough for the real path to reveal itself. And I can tell you this with complete honesty. The moment you choose openness over control, life starts reorganizing around you faster than your mind can understand. You're not waiting for the universe. The universe has been waiting for you. To stop demanding certainty before you move. To stop fighting your confusion as if it's a mistake. To stop shrinking your life to fit an outdated identity. If your confusion brought you here, it wasn't an accident. It was an invitation. And if something in you has been nodding quietly through this entire journey, if something inside you recognizes these words as truth you've always known but never named, then this is your moment. Not to figure things out, not to decide your future, not to force clarity, but simply to declare, I don't know, and I'm ready anyway. Say it inside yourself, or out loud, or write it, or whisper it. This declaration isn't giving up, it's letting go. It's choosing the quantum field over the ego's fear. It's choosing expansion over old identity. It's choosing emergence over control. It's choosing the doorway. So here's your activation. Take one more breath, slow, deep, honest, and let these words land. Your confusion is not the end of your story. It's the beginning of a bigger one. You are not lost. You are between selves. You are not behind. You are being rewritten. You are not failing. You are transforming. The quantum door isn't ahead of you. It's already open. All that's left is the courage to step through without needing to know where it leads. And if you're ready, just say it. The quantum door stays open. Because when you say it, you're not promising certainty. You're promising presence. And presence is where everything begins.